Hello everyone, I'm Brandon. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about my first ever video and a book haul. Let me start off by talking about what this channel is going to be used for. If you like science fiction and if you like reading, you've come to the right place. I'm going to be using this channel to talk about books that I've read, that I'm currently reading, books that I want to read. I'll be posting book reviews and recommendations, book hauls. I'll also probably share my occasional thought on the current state of science fiction and news, new releases in the book community, things like that. I do sometimes read outside of the science fiction genre, but this channel is primarily going to be science fiction. With that said, I may occasionally talk about fantasy or horror, or maybe even historical fiction, but that's not going to be the norm. Most of this time, it's all going to be sci-fi. So with that said, this is my first video. So if you'll please bear with me when I try to figure out the whole YouTube process and the best way to create quality content for you. All I have right now is overhead lights, so I don't have any special lighting. I don't have any special microphones or equipment like that. So it's going to be a learning process for me, and hopefully as time goes on, if things go well, I can improve the quality of these videos for you and continue to get out some good science fiction content. So thank you for trying me out. And I love science fiction. I love reading. So my hope is to share some of that with you. And please feel free to post in the comments on anything that I say and join into the discussion on science fiction. All right. With all that out of the way, let's get into the science fiction. So I recently finished reading Shroud by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and I will eventually have a full review of this up, but for now I'm just going to kind of talk about my initial impressions of the novel. This was a fantastic novel. As some of you may know, Tchaikovsky is a very prolific, if maybe even the most prolific author we have currently writing in science fiction. He puts out multiple books per year, many of them quality books. Two of his books last year have been nominated for the Hugo Awards. So that just kind of tells you that he is consistently writing high quality material, and Shroud is no different. This novel is a sci-fi novel with some horror elements. It's set on a moon that is orbiting a gas giant, and a commercial mining and expedition crew is sent to explore and figure out how they can extract minerals and resources from the moon. So the thing about this moon, Shroud, that they've named, it is high pressure atmosphere, high gravity, zero oxygen, toxic air, and completely inhospitable to humans. And they even have trouble with, they send drones down through the atmosphere. Most of them fail. There's all this radioactivity going on in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is very dense, so even if you were to send humans down there, you'd have to have a really strong probe that can withstand all these pressures. And what happens, essentially the crew is orbiting the moon, and an accident happens, and a couple of the crew members end up on Shroud, and it becomes kind of a survival tale and also a first contact novel. So there are aliens in this. They are very well created. The world building is excellent. Tchaikovsky has created this alien ecosystem on this planet, on this moon, and you can tell he put a lot of thought into it. And it's a survival tale. It's a tale of exploration, and a tale a little bit of horror. So I will have, like I said, I will have a full review of this up um, eventually. That'll most likely be my second video. But I do recommend, I will be recommending anyone to check this out, because it was a good novel. Before we get into the book haul, I'd like to talk a little bit about my current read, Foreigner by C.J. Cherryh. C.J. Cherryh is a grandmaster of science fiction. She's written novels like Scifi, Down Below Station, which have won the Hugo Awards. I think those are what she's best known for. But she has written more than 80 novels. There are several books in the Alliance universe, which has Scifi and Down Below Station in it. And she has also written a series called Foreigner, which actually I believe she calls it the First Contact series. But if you look it up on Goodreads, it's called the Foreigner series. It is still ongoing. The most recent book was released a couple of years ago. I think it's up to 22 books now. So I'm just getting started into this. Now it's a very interesting start. It's about this I don't know if you want to call it a colony ship that gets lost in hyperspace. I'm assuming it's going toward a destination, and they end up somewhere completely different than what they intended. And there is this planet that they stop at and orbit, and it turns out it's inhabited by this alien species that seems to be somewhat intelligent. So they eventually, the book kind of cuts into a different story where it starts. It like takes the whole colony ship and orbiting this planet, and then all of a sudden the scene cuts and it's like 500 years later. Very strange start to the book, and where it's about this diplomat or interpreter. His name is Bryn, and he's living in this society called the Atevi on the planet, and humans and this alien culture have exchanged technologies. They've gone to war. We don't see that. It just talks about it happening in the past. And this character Bryn is there. He's the only human allowed in this alien culture, and all the humans are on an island. All the rest of them are on an island alone. And it's very political. It's just like talking about the culture of this species, all the politics around it, and how this character Bryn is kind of wrapped up in everything. So that's the story's still in progress. I'm still reading it. Once I get my Shroud review up and then finish this book, I will probably put out a review for this book. So be on the lookout for that as well. If you've read Foreigner, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. It's a little bit of a confusing start to the book, so I don't know. What did you think about that if you've read it? So please let me know. And well, with all that said, let's get to the book haul. These first two books I'm going to talk about I picked up online, so they're just online purchases. And the first one is a Broken Binding edition. They're a special edition bookseller based in the UK. So the first book is When the Moon Hits Your Eye by John Scalzi. I have already read this book. I read an arc of it back in January, and so if you've read Scalzi, you know what kind of a writer he is. This is a very light read. It's got humor in it. It's not to be taken seriously. This book is about what would happen if the moon turned to cheese. Like, that literally happens in the book. I did find it entertaining. I enjoyed it. You can't take it seriously. Interestingly enough, like, he does kind of put some science of, like, if the moon turned to cheese, like, what would happen to the moon itself? Like a giant moon-sized ball of cheese. So he has kind of some science on that. But, other than that, this is just an entertaining novel. It's a light read. And I'd recommend it if you're a fan of John Scalzi. So the next book I got was Terminal World by Alistair Reynolds. This is kind of his take on a steampunk world, from what I understand. Reynolds is my favorite author. I've read his Revelation Space, all those books, House of Suns, Pushing Ice, all of it. I have not read Terminal World, so I'll be excited to get into this one. So I recently went to a local library book sale where they have literally thousands and thousands of books for sale. And so I was able to pick through the science fiction and find the ones that I was interested in. I got paperbacks, hardcovers, vintage, and more recent science fiction. So let's get started with the paperbacks. So the first one I picked up was Larry Niven's The Integral Trees. I've never heard of this one before, but it sounded interesting. Niven presents a full-fledged culture of humans evolved to live without real gravity in the gas torus that rotates about a neutron star. So that one sounds like it could be interesting. And then I picked up Stephen Baxter's The Time Ships. So this book is actually written as a sequel to H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. So it's very hard sci-fi. I'm assuming it's a time travel. It involves quantum physics, and I'll be interested in checking that out. And the next one I found, Alan Dean Foster's Lifeform. So this one I've never heard of. Didn't know it existed, but looked kind of interesting. I don't know if this is kind of sounds like it might be part horror. Lifeform is a humankind's greatest discovery or its worst nightmare. So let me know if you've ever heard of this one. Next up, I purchased Greg Bear's Darwin's Radio. And this one had been on my list for a little while. And Greg Bear is, he is a hard sci-fi author. This kind of sounds like something, obviously dealing with evolution. So that should be a fun read. So then I picked up these next few novels that are science fiction, but also kind of fantasy novels. They have time travel in them. Many-Colored Land by Julian May. And this one, a time tunnel opens up on Earth, and people that go through it are sent 6 million years into the past. So they're going to have to live with the prehistoric creatures of that time, and it's, you know, they kind of set up their own fantasy type world, I guess. Um, Now I believe that people that have read this one, it uh, like it, so it's well received. But I don't know if it's really all that well known. It had been on my list, so I'm glad I picked that one up. And then we got The Golden Torque, which is the sequel to that novel. And then I picked up the fourth book to that series, The Adversary. So I could not find the third book, which is called The Non-Born King. I looked for it, couldn't find it, but I thought, well, the fourth book is here. I'll pick it up. Maybe someday I'll find the third one. So let me know if you've read this series. It sounds kind of interesting. Time travel, maybe science fiction fantasy mix. And after that, I found a few vintage sci-fi, starting with Ron Goulart's The Wicked Cyborg. And this is a DAW book, DAW 311. Then we have some John Bruners, starting with The Star Droppers. This one's DAW 23. So I do read vintage science fiction, but not very often. But I like collecting them because they are usually pretty cheap to find, and I love the cover artwork. And this one I thought was really cool with the contrasting purple and blue. John Brunner Polymath. And this is DAW 85. And then we have Entry to Else Win, which is DAW 26. Then I found an A.E. Van Vogt, The World of Null A. So he wrote quite a few during, the golden age time of science fiction. I've never actually read any of his books, even though I do have a few of them. And then we have a Bob Shaw, Who Goes Here, which when I first saw this one, I thought it said Who Goes There, which is the title of a vintage science fiction story by John Campbell that is actually the movie The Thing is based on. But no, it's not Who Goes There, it's Who Goes Here. And it's got a giant worm on the cover, so that's got to be a fun one. And last we have a C.J. Cherryh novel, The Gate of Ivral, which I've never heard of this one. I do like C.J. Cherryh, so I went ahead and picked it up. Next up, we have a trade paperback, China Mountain Zong by Maureen McHugh. And this one's won quite a few awards and was nominated for both the Hugo and Nebula. So that's it for the paperbacks. Let's get into the hardcovers. First up, we have Harry Harrison, The Adventures of the Stainless Steel Rat. And this is kind of a collection, and I believe it has all three of the stainless steel rat novels in it, which I've not read this one before, but I've heard a lot about it. It's a vintage science fiction. And so I have been collecting, when I find them, the year's best science fiction anthologies by Gardner Dubois. And I was able to find the 9th annual collection. And then the 14th. And the 20th annual. So I have about maybe 10 or 11 of these now. And I believe there were 35 of them. So I'm kind of slowly making my way to collecting all of them. And this one is another Gardner Dubois anthology, Modern Classic Short Novels of Science Fiction. And it's got this wraparound artwork. This one has stories from... it's got Jack Vance, Cordwainer Smith, Delaney, Aldous, Frederick Pohl, Robert Silverberg, and a few others. So looks like it's probably a pretty good collection. And the next book was, I kind of like the colors on this cover. It's another anthology called The Science Fictional Solar System, edited by Isaac Asimov. And so this one, it has stories for each of the planets in the solar system, written by different authors. So it has one about the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and so on. And it's got Arthur Clarke, Larry Niven, Asimov, and others in it. So that looks like it could be an interesting to kind of go through each planet and have a story about it. Then we have a couple more Stephen Baxter's, Exultant. And then we had Silver Hair by Stephen Baxter, which this one obviously is about mammoths. Then we have a cyberpunk novel, William Gibson and Bruce Sterling, The Difference Engine. And then another Stephen Baxter, Manifold Space. Now, I do know this one is a sequel. The first one is Manifold Time. Didn't see Manifold Time, but I went ahead and picked this one up. And last, we have Kate Wilhelm, Where Late the Sweet Birds Sang. And this is a Hugo Award winner back in, I think, late 1970s. So this is a fairly well-known science fiction novel that got quite a few awards. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you've read Shroud, if you've read Foreigner, if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in the book haul. Let me know what you thought about them. Let me know if you've picked up any books recently. And I hope to get more videos out in the future, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks again.